Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Patrick Dang here. Now when it comes to sales, you might have had the perfect meeting with a potential customer. Everything went well in the meeting, they love your product and your service and they want to move forward with the next step, and you schedule that next step, right? But a lot of times in sales situation is that when that next meeting comes around, sometimes the prospect does not show up. And it can be a really big mystery because they said they were interested, they said they wanted to buy the product, but then they don't show up to the next meeting. It's kind of strange, right? And so in this video, what I want to do is I want to show you what to do and what to say when this happens. And I'm going to show you exactly how to follow up with your prospects over the phone. Now, before we go ahead and get started, if you are excited to see this video, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you also hit the notification bells if you want to see more videos like this every single week. All right, so when you are in a sales meeting, let's say it's your first meeting, you qualify the customer, they want to buy, and you're getting towards the end of that meeting. Where most people make the mistake when it comes to sales is that they don't really have a clear call to action on what exactly is going to happen next at that next meeting, right? So they might say something like, hey, great talking to you, let's be in touch. Or hey, it was great meeting you, let's schedule another meeting. But the challenge here is that a lot of salespeople don't talk about what exactly is going to happen on that next meeting, and they're not giving a clear reason for why someone should even show up. So on the first meeting, if you don't have clear expectations of the next meeting, highly unlikely the person will show up for the second meeting because there's no reason for them to show up. So if you're crystal clear on exactly what's gonna happen on the next meeting, a lot of times people will show up and you don't even have to follow up because they know what they're getting on the next meeting and they want to get that thing, and you already set that expectation. But in case you do set those expectations on the first meeting and they still don't show up, I'm gonna show you exactly what to do next. So let's say in this example, you are selling a SaaS product, right? Software as a service. And you do your first meeting where you just talk to the person over the phone and then you qualify them, see if they're interested. And if they are interested, you do another meeting in another day where you do a presentation or a demonstration on how your product works and how it's going to benefit them, okay? So it's a two-step process here. So on that first call, right? Before the presentation, before the demo, on that first call, you want to set clear expectations at the end of the meeting so the prospect knows exactly what's going to happen on the next meeting. If they know exactly what's going to happen and they are interested in the result of that meeting, then they will show up. So how do you do that exactly? Well, all you got to do towards the end of the meeting, of the first meeting, is say, so typically the next step we have our clients take is to schedule another meeting where we're going to give you and your team a demonstration on exactly how our product works, how it solves the pains that we talked about in this meeting, and how you can ultimately benefit. Based on our conversation so far, is this something you would like to be interested in? And they might say yes. So in this situation, if they are interested, they're gonna say yes, and then you schedule a specific time, date, and you also make sure all the right decision makers are on that call. Now, if you do this right, like I just mentioned, most of the time you don't really have to follow up because people will just show up. But in the event that they don't show up and you want to follow up, here is what you want to think about. First of all, you really have to have the right mindset when people don't show up when they say they will, right? Because sometimes someone really wants to go to that meeting, but maybe an emergency happened in their business or their personal life and they just couldn't show up and they forgot to let you know, right? The reality is when someone doesn't show up to your next meeting, don't take it personally because you don't actually know why they didn't show up. They may have had good intentions, but life often gets in the way. So don't let, when people don't show up, don't let it affect your emotions negatively. So instead of making assumptions, when you go into your follow-up, when you're talking to someone over the phone, you're calling them, you want to seek the truth. Don't blame them. Don't say things like, hey, you would show up to the meeting. Why didn't you show up? Don't get angry. Uncover the truth and then work from there. So the first step when it comes to following up is first you want to call them, obviously. So if you have the first meeting, you probably do have their phone number. If you don't have it, check their email signature. It's probably in there. And if it's not in there, call the company they work at, get to the receptionist and tell them to redirect you, right? You want to get on the phone with the person you're going to have the meeting with, right? So when you call them, the strategy is you summarize everything you talked about on the first meeting, and then you basically have a call to action on what you're going to do next, which is schedule the next meeting. So here is how you can do it, right? So let's say I had this meeting scheduled, the person didn't show up, and I want to call them to follow up to see if they still want to do the meeting, right? So I call them, ring, 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 and I say, hey, John, how's it going? John says, it's going well. What's up, Patrick? So I'm not sure if you remember, John, but we actually had a demo scheduled for yesterday where we're going to talk about, how we're going to solve the challenges we talked about earlier and how you can ultimately benefit if you decide to use our software. But it seems like you weren't able to make it. So, I'm just curious to know what happened there. John is going to give me a reason like, oh, I forgot, or, oh, we had this emergency, blah, blah, blah. And you say, okay, that's totally fine. Well, if you're so interested, would you like to reschedule for another day? And then John might say, sure, let's go ahead and reschedule. And then you schedule the next day. So as you can see here, I'm just summarizing what happened on the first meeting, talking about their problems, showing how I can solve their problems. And then I'm not blaming them for not showing up. I'm just saying like, hey, what happened there? And they're gonna give me a reason. And I'm gonna ask the person if they wanna reschedule for another meeting. So if they say yes, you are good to go. You schedule another meeting and you just go on. But if they say no, that's okay too, because sometimes on the first call, maybe you didn't fully qualify them and maybe they're not a good fit for your product or service. So, when they say no, just think of it like an objection, right? And now if you see an objection, you gotta handle it. So if they say no, but I could say yes, that's pretty interesting. It seemed like solving XYZ problem was something you really wanted to take care of last time we spoke. I'm just curious, what happened between then and now? Right? So what happened from A to B? What changed in your mind? And that person is going to tell you something like, oh, it was something I was interested in, but we don't have the budget, maybe 6 months down the line, blah, blah, blah. So they're going to give you whatever reason they're going to give you, right? And you have to decide whether or not they are still qualified, but maybe the timing is not right, or maybe there's some kind of obstacle you have to overcome. Whatever the case is, you handle that objection. So if you handle it and you're able to reschedule another meeting, great. If you got to reschedule it at a future date, that's okay too. But if you find that, they're just not interested anymore, or, their boss doesn't want to do something like this, then that's totally fine. Maybe in the future you can follow up to see if anything changes, but if not, you move on. So if that's the case and they're not interested anymore, you could say, okay, great, John, thanks for letting me know. If anything changes in the future, feel free to reach out at any time. And, I'll go ahead and follow up with you 6 months down the line just to see, how you're doing and if you're still interested in this. Is that all right with you? John will say, okay, sure. And then that's it. You can follow up in the future, or you could just leave it at that. So with that said, that's pretty much how you are going to follow up with anybody over the phone. Quite simple. It's a simple process. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to hit the notification bell. And one more thing, make sure you subscribe to my email newsletter if you want to get the latest access to free trainings, free guides, and everything like that, and to know when my new videos come out there as well. So if you want to sign up for my email newsletter, click the link in the description and it's going to take you right there. And one more thing, if you enjoy this video, let me know in the comments as well, and let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see in the future, because I'm always happy to hear your suggestions, get ideas, and create new videos for you guys. So with that said, my name's Patrick Dang. Thank you for watching, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one.